Neighborhoods are amazing. In recent years, Japanese cultural events have been held in various parts of the world every year, showing great excitement. They are known as groups where people who are inspired by anime and traditional performing arts come together to embody their admiration for Japan. But for some reason, there have been cases where other countries' cultures have been infiltrated into these events that call themselves Japanese. Behind this lies commercialism, cultural confusion, and the illusion of taking advantage of Japan's popularity. Japan Expo was held from January 3rd to 6th, 2025, at the main venue in La Ville-Pantany, north of Paris, France. Many people visited the festival, which brought together many of Japan's charms, including anime and manga, traditional culture, J-pop games, food, and lifestyle. This is one of the largest Japanese cultural festivals in Europe, which has been held since 1999, and is a major event attended by over 250,000 people every year. However, there was a clear change at the venue this year. For some reason, booths from neighboring countries were added to the venue, which was supposed to be a Japanese cultural event, and pop goods, traditional costumes, and food from neighboring countries were placed right next to the Japanese area. Even more problematic were the decorations and signs, which featured Japanese-style designs with cherry blossom petals and the ambiguous phrase, Asian-Japanese fusion. Some first-time visitors were
confused as to whether this was Japanese or Korean.
Some booths even introduced kimchi as Japanese spicy pickles and kimbap as Korean Japanese rice balls. The presentation seemed to foreshadow Japanese culture. The organizers had reportedly received several inquiries in advance about the excessive number of booths, but the organizers' response was that they respected diversity and showed no understanding of the issue. However, the word diversity eventually enveloped the entire venue in confusion and anger. The incident occurred at 3 p.m. on the second day of the event, while a demonstration by a group invited from Kyoto was being held in the Japanese traditional culture area, and more than 200 spectators were sitting quietly enjoying the world of Japanese wabi-sabi. Suddenly, a loud, light pop music erupted from the booth next door, and the low notes instantly shattered the silence of the venue. When everyone turned to look in the direction of the sound, a
Japanese staff member said, "We're in the middle of the ceremonies, so could you please turn down the volume?"
However, what they said was,
"This is our space. We have the right to play music. Japan is not the only country that gets special treatment." Quote.
These were selfish words. The moment they heard these words, the French people in the audience stood up and shouted, "Be quiet, don't interfere with the ceremonies." Quote. One after another, they shouted, "Please be quiet." However, the staff from the neighboring country's booth went ahead and invaded the ceremonies area and began the unusual act of handing out flyers introducing their own neighboring tea culture. A French woman in her 70s sitting in the front row cried out, "I've
never seen anything so outrageous. This is a blasphemy against Japan."
The sight of this shook the hearts of everyone in the venue, and the audience began to applaud and follow her lead, chanting, "Respect Japan." In the end, the management staff made the neighboring side leave, but the ceremonies of silence were completely ruined, and the video of the ensuing commotion was widely shared on SNS, with one person posting it within 2 hours and over 100,000 by the next morning. The hashtags #RespectJA Japan Culture #Japan Expo No Korea dominated the top trending spots. The comments section was
flooded with angry voices from various countries asking why the neighboring country was promoting itself in Japan. This is cultural invasion. Please respect Japanese culture. The
number of correct answers to related videos on YouTube exceeded 4.8 million in 1 week, and the video of the French people protesting while shedding tears was a symbolic scene that was shared around the world. A petition drive was then launched by citizens, and 25,000 signatures were collected in just 3 days to demand that the neighboring country booth be removed from Japan Expo. A demonstration of 300 people took place at the venue, where people held up signs reading, "Japan does not need neighboring country." Le Monde, a leading French newspaper, reported on the incident with the credibility of the cultural war. Figaro also made a big deal about the outburst of anger among Japanese fans, and the British broadcaster France 2 also aired a special program, in which a professor of cultural studies from the University of Paris said the following: "There is a difference between imposing another culture and cultural invasion." Quote, people said they wanted to experience the real Japan. In response, Rinko said that this was a judging of Asian culture.
Japanese fans
Criticized it as being biased. However, this defiant attitude only added fuel to the fire and the controversy escalated further. Eventually, Rinko
admitted that there had been a misunderstanding.
but there was no official apology, and the Rinko media reported that the Sakiryu school was spreading in France, completely failing to understand the seriousness of the situation. However, in response to this incident, the Japanese community in France issued a statement calling for respect for Japanese culture and entered into discussions with the management of the Japanese embassy, stating that they would take appropriate measures. A week after the controversy, the management also
announced that from next year onwards, the judging would be abolished and the focus would be returned to Japanese culture.
However, they did not go so far as to say that Rinko booths would be completely eliminated, and there has been a series of criticisms from within France that the response was too lenient. Nevertheless, there were some byproducts of this incident, and movements to protect the real Japanese culture spread throughout Europe. The management of Japan Day in Germany and Hyper Japan in the UK also decided to tighten the judging of Rinko booths. Furthermore, the number of Japanese language learners in France is increasing, and many young people are applying for Japanese language classes and other classes, saying they want to learn about real Japanese culture. French government officials have released comments on the Tokyo metropolitan government's support for the preservation of Japanese culture. On the other hand, the image of the Japanese people has been greatly damaged, and the impression that France is a country that does not respect culture is spreading. There have also been reports online of a lack of cultural manners. What is most noteworthy here is the deep understanding and love that the French people have for Japanese culture, and since the incident, many French people have said that Japanese culture is full of silence and coldness, and that is why it is worth protecting. In the city of Paris, events have begun to be held voluntarily where people wear kimono and recreate the Japanese language, and they have become a hot topic as a symbol of the cultural village chief. This series of events has not been just a simple incident, but has confronted the world about what culture is and how far coercion is acceptable. People who love Japanese culture have probably realized this anew. Culture has a church. Stepping over that church is not coercion, it is invasion. This incident has become a symbolic event that shows how much Japanese culture is valued in Europe, and has forced the people of the Japanese people to think about what the cultural village chief is. Here are some of the many reactions from overseas regarding this topic. This is no longer diversity. They're just bladers barging into a Japanese cultural event. The Japanese are really patient. If my country's traditions were being destroyed in this way, I think I would have yelled at them.
I was at the venue. The atmosphere, filled with the scent of matcha and politeness, was suddenly drowned out by the roar of speakers. At that moment, the Japanese people didn't get angry, they just quietly put away their tools. Seeing them made me feel ashamed. I'm
proud that Japanese culture is respected to this extent in France. I want to tell my Japanese friends that we are on their side. Are the people from the neighboring country worried that they aren't being noticed? The fact that they're asserting themselves at a Japanese event means that there's no context for the text. They're misunderstanding diversity. Respecting different cultures doesn't mean imposing your own culture. I can totally understand why the French woman was so moved. As someone who does this, it's a sacred ritual. It breaks my heart when it's destroyed by noise. I
can't stand the term Asian fusion anymore. The attitude of trying to mix everything together and make it their own seems like cultural theft. I
saw the video on SNS, and it was pure cultural invasion. Is there any point in asserting yourself by destroying a peaceful event? If it were the other way around and a Japanese person barged into a neighboring event, they would definitely have made a big fuss about discrimination. I was moved by how much Japanese culture is loved around the world. A culture that loves silence is respected anywhere. To be honest, the organizers also have a problem. It's the result of corporatism using volume as a shield. Every culture has its own sense of duty. Even we French people would be kicked out if we shouted in a museum. It's the same at events. It's over the moment we compete for culture with volume. If you can't understand the meaning of it, you don't have the right to participate in a disassembled luncheon.
This incident was the first time I learned about the work. I cried when I saw the video. I wanted to go to Japan and experience the real thing when such a beautiful culture was trampled on. The
neighboring party's excuse was that there was no malice. No, it was clearly a performance. I can't help but think that it was planned. It's
ironic that the bond between Japan and France has deepened. It's as if our neighboring country has chosen isolation through its own actions.
These are the reactions. The reactions were critical of the actions of our neighboring country. As for my impressions of the channel, I'm appalled by the brazenness of trying to sell something to the world by making it seem like it's Japanese. Please stop getting involved with Japan. I love talking about Japan. If you like, please let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next news episode.